Hey everyone, it's Angela Allen. Welcome back to the Handmade Homestead. Let's talk about pruning or not pruning tomatoes. Let's go. All of my gardening life, I have pruned tomatoes. Now I've been gardening for about 40 years and I usually train them to a trellis. I don't use those little tomato cages of any kind. I always use a trellis. I did try training them to a string once. I was very unhappy with that. So I do use a cattle panel trellis. There's a 16-foot trellis right here going down. There's two here. There's one 16-foot, then there's a walkway between them, and then there's another 16-foot trellis going down. That one is not full of fruit. As I said, all of my life I have trained them to 2 liters. Right from the bottom, as they grow, after I plant them, I would grow up 1 liter, another liter, and I would remove most, if not all, of the suckers. Doing that has always given me huge amounts of fruit and very little disease problems, but some disease problems. Last year was a particularly bad disease year. Now here we are in September. This is the first week of September. These are sun gold cherry tomatoes. Let me zoom out to see if you can see the row a little bit better. You can see this whole row going down. There's really no disease there at all. Do you see any disease there? I don't really see anything. No blight, nothing. There's been no hornworms, there's been no bugs, no problems, nothing. But tons and tons of fruit. And this year I did something completely radical for me. I didn't prune, not at all. I did do one kind of trimming, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But let's just talk about the reasons for pruning. It's basically in the soil. When you have leaves that are close to the ground and it rains, all of the organisms and the fungi and the bacteria and all of the things that tomatoes hate can splash up onto your vines and onto your leaves and start decimating your plants early. This is the one and only place I have any blight on my tomatoes. That's it. You're looking at it right there. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plants have a little bit of blight. Let's look at it a little bit closer. There are all kinds of diseases that can affect your tomatoes. These happen to be large red cherry. That is the kind of tomato they are. Large red cherries. And we just picked all of this fruit this morning, so you're not going to see a lot of red in here. Here's one that's slightly blushing. These get a deep, dark, rich red. They have a regular tomato flavor, not too acid, not too bright, not too sweet. They're just kind of okay-ish to me. Some people love them. I don't happen to be someone who loves them, but the one good thing about them, I don't know if I can show you because this isn't very ripe, is they do have some gel in them. And like I said, this isn't very ripe, but they're a pretty meaty tomato. And that meatiness lends itself well to throwing it into tomato sauce. It's kind of a good all-purpose tomato. And like I said, they're basically a flawless red, very large cherry. So they have their place. They're just not my favorite for flavor. So on a row like this, if you don't do some cutting back, it will be impossible to walk down this row very quickly. And you can see there's a couple of branches sticking out, but mostly it's pretty well open as far as walking down the pathway. Let's go down there and turn around this way, and I'll show you what I've been doing. First, I just have to stop and show you this. Isn't that pretty? Those are just so pretty. All of these tomatoes are indeterminate varieties except for these right here. These are Jet Star tomatoes. They're a determinate variety. They grow a nice big tomato. And again, these are not only are they flawless, they're blemish free. The fruit is delicious. They are hybrid, so I don't save the seeds. This is one of the few hybrids I actually grow in my garden. But going down the row, this whole row to the right, those are all large red cherries. To the left, there are several plants of Midnight Snacker, and then the rest are sun gold. Only the Midnight Snackers are my favorite. I kind of got stuck this year and I had to plant these other varieties. And let's talk about why. I always start my tomatoes from seed. Always. I never buy plants, in fact. And I start a good 12 or 13 or 15 varieties, and I typically have around 100 plants ready to go by the time it's time to plant outside. But this year was an exception. I did plant all of those plants, but for some reason I got an aphid infestation, oddly enough, inside of my sunroom in my house. And most of the plants just didn't tolerate being treated. They never bounced back or got big enough. So at the last minute I had to buy tomatoes, and these were the varieties that were available. Sun Gold. These are Sun Gold. Again, they get bright orange when they're ripe, but I did just pick a few minutes ago. So we got Sun Gold. We got the large red cherries, and then these. These I did grow from seed. The only ones that survived the aphid attack this spring were Midnight Snackers. And aren't these beautiful? Now these tomatoes will get bright red when they're ripe. The more sun exposure they have, the more anthocyanins, the more beautiful purple they get. As the foliage starts to die back closer to fall and they get more sun, these will become jet black. The whole tomato will be jet black. And I have some really good pictures of that from years past, and if I can find that, I will definitely stick it in here for you to see. But they're fantastic. They taste really good. Great tomato flavor, not too acid. These are one of my favorites. I always grow them. But again, the Sun Gold, not my favorite. They split easily. They're very small. They are prolific, but I'm not one for orange or yellow tomatoes. I like red. And the red cherry tomatoes. All right, large red cherry, not ripe yet, but about full size. Sun Gold cherry tomatoes. Look at the difference in the size. It's pretty phenomenal. So if you're looking for a really good cherry and you don't like wow flavor, you just want strong tomato flavor to use for canning or sauces or fresh eating or salads, these are a good choice. And as you can see, disease is not a problem for them either. So what I do now, since it is the 1st of September, and I don't need tons more tomatoes because I still have tons, I'm sure you can see those all in the camera, tons of tomatoes here still. As these vines grow longer, what I do is I just come in and I remove them. Usually with clippers, which I don't happen to have in my hand. But I will take the tomatoes off. I will cut the branch back to the next biggest cluster. So this had a really long vine with some flowers and budding fruit bracts coming on. I cut them all off in favor of getting this one to grow bigger and to ripen without the excessive vine. So I never really pruned, but I have cut back. This is another example. I trimmed this back. This had a very long vine with a few very young flowers and bracts going. I cut them back. I go back to the next biggest fruit bract, and that gets saved and the rest goes. This is another example I cut just a few minutes ago. Has some nice fruit on it, but I don't really need it to keep growing. And you can see I do that all along. So I don't prune at the beginning, but I do check the growth eventually. When I have enough tomatoes and I don't feel like I need a lot more, I start stopping the growth. Now this is a good example too. You can see a bract starting right there. This will become tomatoes, but I have plenty. I don't need that to grow. So the best thing to do for me is just to remove that. I do that to check the growth and the height too. I'm a short 5 foot tall, but these panels are almost 6 feet, and those tomatoes, some of them are 7 feet, some may be approaching 8 feet tall. I don't need them to keep growing taller. I just need this fruit down here to ripen, because I've had plenty of tomatoes this season and I will have plenty more to ripen and to store and process and put away and make sauce out of and eat fresh and dehydrate, freeze, everything, ferment. I do that too before the season is over. So what's my conclusion? Let's just take a little seat and talk about that. The fruit's been overall blemish free as well. Just beautiful, ripe fruit. It also has ripened wonderfully. I've never had like a huge onslaught. It's ripened kind of on a regular basis. I get big, good harvests every couple of days, but there's never been a point where I got a ton of fruit and then no fruit for days. Every couple of days I have more fruit. So I really like this method. It's worked really well for me. I do, if bigger branches kind of fell over, I did tie up branches. I didn't prune them, I just tied them up. The only ones that I cut back again were fruitless branches that were sticking out in the middle of my walkway. And then only if I couldn't tie them up. I really tried to tie them up as much as possible. It saved me a lot of time to not prune. It saved me a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of, I think, fruit loss. So from now on, I think I'm going to just nix the pruning and I'm going to just trim as I need to. Now it is the first week of September. In another week or so, I will go through and I'm going to top all these tomato plants, the indeterminate ones, so they won't continue to grow longer. I want them to ripen the rest of their fruit they have on there. It's absolutely plenty for my family. We have plenty in the house. What's still here to ripen is enough for us. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to top them so they won't continue to grow longer and put their energy into growing more little tomatoes. They'll just put their energy into perfection and ripening the ones that are already there. So let me know down below, do you guys prune your tomatoes? Do you let them grow wild and just tie them up? I'm thinking most of you trellis. I'm sure there's some people that do let them grow on the ground, sprawl on the ground. I won't do that because I like the fruit clean and bug free, but I really want to know what you're doing, like how you're growing yours. And if you have a video out about it, absolutely tag me so I can watch your video too. I want to see that. So yeah, it's been a bumper crop for tomatoes this year, and I'm going to continue to not prune them. And I'm always up for trying something new, and I definitely want to hear what you're doing. So if this video was helpful for you, you'll probably enjoy this one too. And I'll see you next time. Take care.